Hello, welcome in. I am just starting the recording. I would love to keep this within our 1 hour container here, so you always know that when you arrive, we are, it's not just this thing that's going to go on and on. I want to be clear and concise, and I invite you to just drop in here if you are here live or if you are watching this later. My invitation for anyone, if it's safe to do so, to maybe just close your eyes and take a few deep breaths. Our breath is so important. In through your nose, out through your mouth. And just become aware what happens in your body when you allow those deep belly breaths in and out, what you're bringing in energetically and what you're releasing. Our breath is the one conduit between what we would call like heaven and earth, our mind and our heart. These two spaces that now science is showing us that our heart has more neurons than our brain. So that's a beautiful thing to understand now. So as you breathe, just becoming more here, more present. The interesting thing about breath, if we understand it, we can't breathe in the past or the future. We can only breathe now. So when we remember that, that's kind of cool too. Like, oh, all I ever need to get back to presence is to take like a couple of deep breaths and then understand, this is where my power lies. If time is relative, all we ever have is now. There isn't a past or a future, but we go there all the time in our minds. So, um, okay. So if you feel inclined, I'd love for you to just share in the chat one word, maybe, how I do this, like as I was sitting with meditation groups over these years, one practice I really, really have come to enjoy is this idea that there is not like I am anxious right now or I am angry, but it's more like there is, like for me right now, there is some nervousness. It's strange. I wasn't nervous last time so much. But this time there's a little bit of nervousness and there's there's happiness. So that's what's moving through me. And it's interesting because it gets to be both and. If there can be fear and love, they're all at once. Um, I really believe that I'm not even going to call it EQ, like emotional intelligence, but the sign of a being big enough to hold two opposing truths at the same time, that says so much about how open we are, how receptive we are to maybe there's another way to see this. Maybe I don't have all the answers. Like to not be so rigid and believing that we don't need to learn anything more because we know it all. Really, that's kind of what we're saying when we're not open in our mind and our heart, to maybe someone else's view. What can we learn from each other? We're here to walk each other home. So um, so I would say there's nervousness and what did I say? Joy, happiness, right now. If you feel like you'd like to share what's moving through you right now, there is whatever. I'd love to see that in the chat. But welcome, welcome if you're just arriving. Okay. So, and if you're just getting here, okay, acceptance and fear. Thank you, Ryan. Gratitude, Eric. I appreciate that. Thanks for sharing. There is acceptance and fear. Right on. Gratitude. You know, they say, and I guess I can't just say they say because I've experienced this. I don't know if you have, if you want to share in the chat, but gratitude is it's the most magnetic, obviously. It's like I would say it's an iteration of one of the closest frequencies of love is gratitude. Um, and the frequency is so magnetic, so high that it really starts to draw in more things to be grateful for because you're in that energy when you're in gratitude. Okay, JP, humility, anxiety, and grateful. Good. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Okay, so I want to speak today, and I want this to be, I think I spoke a lot last time and didn't ask as many questions, but I see already we're a little bit interactive, so I love this. Um, I want to talk about perception. I don't know if you've ever heard the idea that we don't see things as they are, we see them as we are. How could it be any other way? I'm wearing like glasses right now, and this is a lens that I'm seeing through. And sometimes it gets smudged and I have to like take it off and do this because they're actually, as I'm looking through them, they are kind of not so clear. But if we understand that the lenses that we're wearing without even like it being glasses, they're all shaped and formed from our childhood. Like if our parents said, "Welcome to the human race, here's your baton," and it has all, yes, it has all the genetic and information, all the generational trauma, but it also has all the beauty, all the gifts, all the talents that we get passed down from those who came before us. But with all of that is their beliefs about themselves, about life, about what is good, bad, right, or wrong. And when we're little, even if it's not spoken, maybe more importantly, when it's not spoken, it's felt. Because as kids, if we don't even have speech yet, we are feeling energetically, because everything's energy. What is being modeled speaks so much louder than words. That's who we end up being, is how our parents and the people around us, what we felt about what we saw modeled. And if it was fear-based, then we came to believe something about ourselves. So it's very, very interesting to sit with this idea of perception. So that's what I want to kind of go into today because it's such a fascinating concept. And it's one that's so important because it's wrapped in awareness. When we become more aware that, oh my gosh, I think my lens has some mud on it. I'm not seeing clearly. I really like this metaphor for the lens. Like for me, maybe everyone has a different metaphor that's going to feel more clear for them, no pun intended. But for me, this idea of my lens having some mud, or even if it's just like a thin film on it and it's everything, or it's blind spots that I really can't see because I came to believe these things before I would question. I didn't know to question, is that true or is that fear? So if we're not asking the questions ever in our lives, we are literally viewing everything and everyone and ourselves with a muddy lens, an unclear seeing, and an unclear understanding of who we be in reality. One thing that just is popping up that I'm going to share really quick because I read it just this last week and I'm like, oh my gosh, could it be so? And it feels like it. You know, when we hear things and feel things, it's not just that we're hearing and seeing them. Do you realize maybe how have you felt about like when you hear something and it resonates almost like a harmonious chord, like ding, like a tuning fork? For me, I'm learning, oh my gosh, that's truth. If it feels off, like a discordant or like cognitive dissonance, then I'm clear enough more and more to understand, oh, that doesn't feel like truth for me. And my truth is going to feel different than someone else's. And it all depends on our awareness of the things and ourselves. So, what I read this last week that was so fascinating is they were talking about forgetfulness. And I was like, forgetfulness of what? Well, forgetfulness of our wholeness, that we are love. We've never been separate from it. We just came to believe that. And that's why we're wearing glasses that makes us forget who we actually are, our amazingness, our wholeness. Our souls are not broken, they're whole. We came here to experience situations in our lives that were the opposite of our wholeness. So we kind of had to forget. So listen to this. I don't know. I geek out on this, so I'm just going to share it with you. But what they said in the book is forgetting is satanic. And so I was like, wait a minute. I'm still kind of wrapping my brain around the whole idea of Satan and the adversary and what is the purpose? What is the role of that? Whatever you call it, whether it's literal or metaphorical, whatever you believe about that power, then if God is love, the frequency of wholeness, which we are, right? we're not separate from it, when we're in the frequency of our wholeness and our love, then the opposite of that would be the frequency of forgetting, which then becomes satanic in nature because it's stagnant. It's not open, it's contracted and rigid and like forgetting, like, I don't know who I am, and kind of it's based in fear. Do you feel the difference in the energy there? So maybe the role of the power of Satan, whatever we're giving that power to, based in fear, keeps us really stuck. So it's like a damnation because it's dammed up energy, stuck in fear, believing that that's where our power lies and not being open to new things and being in our wholeness. So really, if we came here to grow into our wholeness, I don't know what the whole purpose of life is. I can't begin to think that I do. I used to think that I knew everything, and now the only thing I do know is that I don't know. But it's interesting when I think of these things, they resonate in a way. So I'm curious if how that resonates with you. I'm going to tell you a story, or actually, I'm going to ask a couple questions here. So, talking about perception and the lenses that we wear, these are just reflection questions. You can answer in the chat or just ponder. But the first question is, what do we tend to assume about other people's motives? Have you ever been thinking, like, why did they say that? What did they mean by that? What are we assuming about other people's motives behind anything they're doing or saying? And when is the last time that you misread a situation through the lens that's kind of muddy, that's kind of stuck in your past? And then think about, what are the things you came to believe about yourself in the past that are your filters on your lens, like your not enoughness, your need to control things so you feel safe, your shame, how they all color and splot the way you are viewing the world through that lens. And then the last question here to kind of reflect on. I'm sorry I'm going through these fast, but I don't want to keep you more than an hour. Let's see. Whose perception are you still living through or believing because, or that isn't your own? Whose perceptions are you maybe still living through that aren't your own? So those are interesting questions. I'm curious if anyone has any thoughts or feelings, if you've had any situations where you're like, oh my gosh, because when things are happening, like back to this quote, things are not as things are, we don't see things as they are, we see them as we are. So if there's a war in here, I promise you, your lens and your perceptions are creating the war out here. So instead of saying, why does this keep happening to me? Through so much courage and compassion to turn in and be like, wait a minute, what must I have been taught that I believed? Because what was I going to do? Doubt my parents when I'm just itty bitty? We're going to believe because we want to belong. And so if we don't ask those questions, we're walking around believing those things that maybe haven't ever served us. But if we're not willing to say, wait, whose perceptions am I still, if I don't like my reality, if it's confusing, or if I'm suffering, or if I'm scared, or I'm angry all the time, guess what? That lives in me somewhere, or it wouldn't be manifesting out here. So now I get to turn in and tune in and start asking different questions. So I'm going to retell the story of the boat. I don't know how many of you heard it, who was here last week or not, but I'm going to say it's just a couple minute thing, but it's important because it talks about the things that we believe live outside of us that actually live inside of us. And it's a story, I think it's Thich Nhat Hanh. And he tells the story of a Buddhist who went to meditate in the middle of a lake in his little rowboat. And he was out there for a couple hours, just in bliss. No, just like a perfect day, no wind. And he's just like blissed out, one with nature, one with all. And he suddenly feels a boat hit his boat. And he's like, what the crap? And his eyes are still closed. What is going on? how dare someone get their boat all the way out to me and they couldn't see that I was like in my situation? So he goes to open his eyes and unleash his rage on this person that came and hit his boat. And he opens his eyes and he sees it's an empty boat. There's no one in the boat. And he has this aha and moment of enlightenment. He starts laughing because he realizes, oh, I was just taught the most beautiful lesson. That anger, that empty boat didn't make me mad. It triggered something that already lived inside of me, or it wouldn't have been triggered. So think of all the empty boats in your lives that come in, and we will say, well, they said that, so I'm this way. I get to be angry, or I'm mad because of this, or I'm sad. They made me sad. Sadness doesn't, no. That's not how it works. We have things that live in us, and if we're always blaming, we are staying in the energy of victimhood, and you cannot, like that saying by Einstein, you cannot solve a problem. I would say you cannot increase your awareness with the same level of unawareness that created the problem. So if we're more aware of, oh my gosh, that anger lives in me, now we're getting somewhere. Now you have awareness. I always tell my clients, healing, growth, expansion, your whatever it is that makes you feel more free always starts with awareness. And I would say it's like 90%. You cannot change what you cannot see. The other 10% is motivation, I think, and maybe sprinkled some other things. But really, if you're motivated, here you are. You had an awareness that, there's something, I'm feeling some sort of way, and I would love to change that. I would love to be in more peace at whatever your goals are, right? Okay, I see that JP said oft times nefarious. We were talking about the perceptions, I think, back then. And Ryan, good intentions and not good enough. Those were the things that you came to believe. Okay, 1 and 2. Okay, the questions. Thank you. Thank you for responding. But this is an act of self-care. It's actually, for a man, it's a radical act of self-care to show up here and be like, yeah, you know what? I don't know. And this, I'm going to be asking you questions in a bit about what you came to believe yourself as a man. Because I sit a lot. I have many male clients. I work with couples, and I've kind of geared my practice to go in a direction of helping women. But then I've had a lot of men say, why aren't you helping men in a situation like this? And I'm like, you're right. If women are more likely to like be more introspective and talk more, what kind of energy have we been raised in that did work and didn't work? The things that I think are becoming more and more clear that we're more aware of now, male and female, is that we all have wounded masculine and feminine energies flowing through us because it's what we saw modeled. Our parents were either the silent generation or them before them were silent. They had zero resources or tools or time to tend to things like this, like we do now. So let's do everyone a favor. I mean, this, since time is relative, but they talk about ancestral healing. What we're doing now by just talking is changing the energy. It's changing the collective conversation because we're willing to do it and we have the time. So here we are. Let's talk. And because time is relative, guess who we're healing? We're healing our ancestors at the same time as we're doing this work for us and anyone that's in our realm now and anyone yet to come. So it's beautiful work. So thank you for being here. I'm going to ask you another question. If you can and you feel safe, I would ask you to kind of close your eyes because I'm going to guide you through this kind of perception shift. So if you're in a safe place, go ahead and close your eyes for a bit. And I'm going to ask you to visualize. Actually, just drop in with a couple of deep breaths, just in through your nose, out through your mouth. Just kind of letting and as you exhale, just letting some of the static, the excess, anything that's felt burdened from your day, wherever you are, just letting that go. Just letting that shit go. and just sit and be here now. And now, from a more centered place, visualize or think about a conflict, a recent conflict you've had, or maybe it's something that's come up more than once. Maybe it's more like a pattern, something that keeps playing out in your world. And as you visualize this conflict, this thing that's happening, and it's a conflict, I'm thinking, huh, actually, it doesn't have to be. I'm thinking, well, it's with someone, in a relationship with someone, but I think our most important, I know. I have to say our most important relationship is with ourselves. So how we're given here is how we're given out there. It can't be any other way. So and how you receive too from yourself is how you receive from others. So I invite you to go ahead and close your eyes again. I kind of stirred it up again, but view this conflict. And then I'm going to ask you to view it from your own lens. View it as yourself. What is the story you're telling yourself about this conflict from your view, your perception, your lens? It's this way. This is what it feels like. They said this. Therefore, it's this. What is that? What is that story? As you're thinking about it from your lens in relationship with this person and maybe even with yourself. It can be either or both and, it doesn't matter. Whatever works for you. And then after you've done that, and you're like, okay, yeah, that's how that is. That's what that is. And as I'm visualizing it with as myself, that's my view. That's my perception. Now I'm going to ask you as if this other person, or this other version of you, maybe, if we were doing it here, take your lens off and give it to the other person. Actually, no, don't. I'm sorry, don't do that. That's what we do all the time. That's what we wish we could do to other people. But I'm going to ask you, sorry, back up here. View this whole conflict from their lens. What are they seeing through their own lived experience that created the lens that they are wearing that is very different than yours, probably? It might be kind of hard to do. I understand that. That's why we have so much conflict in our world, because it's impossible sometimes to view really from someone else's lens. That's why it's really beautiful when we can slow down and even begin to believe and wonder, what would it be like to view this very experience or conflict from their view? So that's the second lens that I'm going to ask you to try to perceive. The third one, I'm going to ask you, the third and final one, is from the lens of a neutral observer. Someone who is Switzerland, baby, they are just neutral. They have no judgment. They don't know anyone else's lens. They're just observing it. They're watching the body language. They're watching reactions and responses and presence and fear, what they're feeling energetically. And notice how your story of this same conflict might start to shift with each perspective. Have you ever done that? And I'm curious what you experienced by just this quick little exercise that I kind of messed up a bit. Sorry, but I hope that didn't like make it hard for you. But your perspective, their perspective, and then Switzerland's perspective, neutral, just so neutral. Kind of just like an observer, maybe from a higher, like out of the weeds and kind of up here and just saying, ah, okay. So if anyone has anything to share about what they experienced in that, I'm really curious how that felt for you. Um,
I felt
and
like there was a lot of defenses on when I looked at from my side, perhaps justification.
okay. Okay. Thank
Uh,
you. I'm going to change the view
yeah.
here. We can get both of us on here. Okay. Um, okay. So say that again, JP.
So when I view it from my perspective, it was defense, the defense mechanism comes up.
Okay.
There's justification. Um, when I viewed it from the other person's perspective, kind of the same thing. There's this juxtaposition of, all right, it's almost like you're looking across the chasm. One person's over here, the other person's over here, and trying to figure each other out. But then as I viewed it from, this non-biased perspective, it's interesting how you can see how easy it would be if you allowed it to let those defenses down.
Okay. Beautifully said. Thank you. How easy it would be to figure it out, find a solution, find a bridge, build a bridge instead of a wall from a place of neutrality. Like, what if I could take this off for a bit and just set it down and they could do the same? Because it's really hard when you're building a bridge and they have a wall, right? And vice versa. It goes both ways. And it's never always the one thing, right? We're like this sometimes, we're like this sometimes, sometimes we're like this, sometimes we're like it's all the things and it's life. And it's relationships and they're messy, but they're sacred because how else are we learning? So in emotionally focused therapy with couples, when I do work with couples, we talk at we say talking below the line. And what that is noticing someone else's behavior and not asking questions, but saying, oh, this is what I'm noticing from a place of like a heart-led place. And it's finally getting like, what is my primal fear? Because the primal emotions are fear, anger, grief, and joy. Those are four primal emotions. And some people in the psych world would say anger isn't really a primary emotion. It's an emotion that keeps us from feeling what we need to be feeling so we can deal with it. And that is pain. Anger is always rooted in pain. And so when we can notice that someone's behavior of pain, and pain is powerful. We've all felt it and we've all reacted in with anger because it's so effective to build a wall. It keeps us feeling safe, like a boundary that pushes people out here because the minute we're angry, people back off, right? Or people will initiate and then we're in it because it feels like connection. And it feels familiar, depending on our thermostat in our families that we grew up in. I don't know if I spoke to this last week, but this is something when I have new clients come in, we kind of always go back to the basics. I'm so surprised at how things that just I have to remember, like, well, I didn't know that before I was in grad school and my other like in my career now. So it's really vital to take people back and walk them through because sometimes they're like, oh yeah, or oh, I forgot, or oh my gosh, I didn't know that. I never thought about that. But let's really quickly talk about why there's such a communication breakdown for everyone. We're not alone, it's collective. It's because in our family of origin, there was a thermostat and it was either hot and spicy, like 100 degrees, everyone's yelling, slamming doors. The way to communicate was just hot. And that became our thermostat. 120 degrees, right on. I'm just wearing my swimsuit all the time and it feels really comfortable. But then on the opposite side of that spectrum is like icy frigid. It's like 30 below and nobody's talking about anything. People will, if something happens, they'll just shove it under the rug. They're not talking about it. There's like complete shutdown and withdrawal instead of trying to. So the two ways to be, either you're in emotionally focused therapy when I work with couples, either they're the one that's poking, like see me, and they'll start a fight because they want to connect, because that's how they saw it modeled. Or you have a withdrawer and you have someone saying, see me, and they're shutting down because they didn't know they're like, I've got nothing. And so you either have people fighting, one like this, or two withdrawers. And when you have people that are withdrawing, because that's all they saw modeled and they don't have the resources or tools. They just don't know how. That's why, like, sitting with them and letting them practice speaking below the behavior of what they saw and what they came to be because that's what they saw, as it was so normal. They can get out of the hot and the cold and kind of come to this beautiful place where it's like balmy. And they're like, oh my gosh, I can speak to you from my heart instead of reacting or shutting down. So thank you for saying that, because it's really true. If we are constantly in conflict with someone that's either shutting down or reactive, which is a reaction too, but like spicy hot reactive, and we don't know, and we don't have the resources, and we don't have the awareness of what happened and what was kind of handed to us without being like, wait, is that true that I'm comfortable being hot and spicy or shut down? Oh my gosh. If I'm aware of that, now I can tend to coming back to the middle. And if I have a partner that's willing, that has the awareness and has the motivation to do the same, now we're talking. Now we're getting somewhere. But it does take two. When couples come in, I'm very, very honest because I don't want to waste people's time and money. I'm like, the greatest gift you can give to this person in front of you is to do your own work. If you're here for them or they're here for you, this isn't going to work. You have to be in it for you. You're here to learn about, who am I? What did I come to believe about myself and life that keeps me suffering? Because if we're suffering, that primal joy, if we're suffering, it's because we're believing the lie. We're in the frequency of forgetting our wholeness. And that is stagnation. It's satanic, whatever you want to call it. Demonic, evil. It's the frequency of forgetting our love, our wholeness, our joy. And it's real. And we all have felt it. But it's that frequency of forgetting has a purpose. How would we ever know what liberation feels if we've never known what prison felt like? The suffering, the heaviness, that frequency of literal shame is 20 hertz, death is 0. The next frequency above death is shame. No wonder we're running from it. We'll do anything to not feel it. We'll shut down or we'll get angry. We'll do anything but feel that. So if we're like, wait, that's an important thing, that shame. If I keep dismissing it and repressing it, I am in the frequency of forgetfulness. And that's kind of like living in hell with that frequency. But if I am willing to go into my shame and be the one that holds it and stops running away, stops hiding, stops reacting and projecting and whatever it is that we do, we all have our own perfect cocktail of forgetfulness. But if we're willing to be the one who stays to hold that version of us who came to believe the lie, now we're bringing that frequency back into our wholeness because we stayed. We stayed in the frequency of the love that we are, to allow that frequency, because love already won. There's no time. It's the greatest power of all. It doesn't win in a future time. Like, love is, and it allows fear to exist because it knows it has to, because one makes the other true. So when we're like, oh my gosh, of course I had to forget, because now look at this. Now I'm in my wholeness and my love. And because I experienced that, I get to expand into this. That's why my soul came here. Then you start to live and realize that life is always bringing us the frequency of forgetfulness, so we will keep remembering over and over. Little more, little more. It's never the same. We're always gaining, gathering, expanding. Our amoebas, our cells, life, nature, everything's contracting, expanding, and it always expands more than it contracted. That's how it is. So when we start to understand we aren't in nature, we are nature, and we are always expanding with everything else around us, because we are. So thank you for sharing that, JP. I love that just that awareness of, oh my gosh, how could I, when I saw it with like a neutrality, the gift that comes from that So now I'm going to ask you, let's see. Um, okay. This idea that what do you do with someone else's pain? Like talking about this idea that other people's pain doesn't belong to us unless we choose to carry it around. I don't know if you've ever heard that saying, but there's a story about the Buddha and this angry man that came to him. And the man was angry because his sons were going to take over his business, but they decided to become Buddhist monks instead. And so the man goes to the Buddha and he starts yelling, like angry, look at you. You changed my whole life now because my sons won't take over my business. Now I need to work until I'm, so old, and just so angry and sending it, just shouting at the Buddha. So the Buddha sat there, remained, just listening. And the man was done. And the Buddha asked this man a question. If you bring a gift to someone and they don't accept it, like they're not there at their house to accept it, what do you do with the gift? And the man was like, I take it back, like bring it back later, whatever. And the Buddha said, yeah, I don't accept your gift. I don't accept that anger. That's yours. So the lesson is like, people can project on us all the time, and that's what we're doing. The life is a mirror. That's why if there's a war in here, guess what? It's reflecting back to us. It's actually reflecting back to us the energy, the signal we're sending out. It's quantum physics. And so that is a powerful understanding of like, wait a minute. Once again, if I don't like what's out here, I guess it's time to be radically self-responsible and be aware, yeah, there's a war in here. And that's okay, because it's on purpose. You can't get it wrong. If you look back at your life, think about everything that's ever happened and who you are now. If you were wanting to expand into more forgiveness, more unconditional love for everyone, but here, in the end, here is how it ends up being out there, right? So, how do I do that? Well, guess what? We're in the realm of contrast, of duality. It's not duality, but it seems like everything's contrasting. One makes the other true. So it's actually, we experience both, but one feels kind of icky, we think, because that's part of the experience. So when we accept that, we're like, oh my gosh, I actually can see how everything, I mean, there's women who come to me and they're like, I could never have lived what you lived through in your marriage and all of that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that was the greatest gift that ever happened to me. I am who I am now. I went and learned and studied and went on this path that changed the trajectory of my life because that happened. If that hadn't happened, I can't imagine what I'd be doing still. I'd probably still be robotic and numb, forgetting. So, thank you. Everything that's happened in my life, you're my greatest guru. You're my greatest teacher. Like I get tears of gratitude literally when I think of my life. I wouldn't want it to be any other way. So was it ever good, bad, right, or wrong? It wasn't ever a test. It was my curriculum. And so now I flexed the muscle of trusting myself to keep going. And look where I am. I'm not a robot. I'm alive because that happened. So then I get to say, so if nothing in that was ever wrong, what does that mean about me now? How does that feel in my nervous system when I know I can't make a mistake? I'm always going to get it right. There is no such thing as wrong. There's just curriculum. We're just learning. Ah, I didn't like that, how that felt. Let me see what's still going on in here. Ah, I get to hold that part of me and bring it back to my wholeness. How does that feel? Big, deep breath. That's a very different energy. People aren't afraid. So I love to travel, not knowing. I've traveled a lot I was given a pass to travel for free right after my divorce 9 years ago. So for a few years, I would just go. I didn't know where I was going. I would just get a backpack and sometimes just go to the airport and look and see where I could get first class. And I love the thrill of dropping myself into a culture I didn't know anything about. I didn't have a plan. Thank you, Ryan. Okay. Okay. We'll speak to that in a minute. Um, I didn't have a plan, but somehow that felt important. And I started to understand that when I had a plan, like, oh, I'm going to stay here. This is how long I'm staying here in this place, and I'm going to have it all mapped out. Then I was ending up like in hotel rooms alone, bored. Like, what am I going to watch? Something on foreign TV? No. Um, and then I was like, well, I'm going to stay here. Well, oh my gosh, I really like it here. I wanted to stay a few days, but I'm now missing out on this flight or this to get to the next country. So I realized, wait a minute. This is actually, I'm finding out when I don't know and I just rent a car and I start driving. I have no idea where I'm going, where I'm going to stay. It starts to get dark or I want to eat here. The people that I would meet, the stories that I would hear, the experiences that I had that were like flexing that muscle of like, see, do you see? This would never have happened. It was magic. It was magic. And I started to say, like, wait a minute, can I live my life like I travel? Can I really believe that there's something bigger than what I can believe about myself with my limited lens here, right? That there's something that I'm connected to. If I remember that I'm part of one with everything, my wholeness is one with everything, right? That thing that I'm connected to, I don't know what to call it now. It's real though. It's pretty cool. That's always got my back. It's benevolent because it's always been guiding me to be in my curriculum if I'm willing. And part of that curriculum, I think, is to get out of our heads and stop believing what keeps us thinking we're living in this box that I have to control this. I need to control where I'm staying tonight, where I'm going. And I would travel with women sometimes. They'd say, "Well, I want to come with you." I'd be like, "Okay." And then sometimes I was like, oh, no, no, oh, because they wanted to control this is where we're going to stay. And I'm like, I don't travel like that. So now I know enough about me that I'm like, I will either go alone or I'll go with someone who's like, yeah, let's go. Let's just figure it out as we go. Let's see the magic unfold. So I'm telling you this because I don't know. I can't remember why I was telling you that. But if you remember, tell me. But I'm going to skip over to this other thing. Um, Okay, one last thing, and then Ryan, I want to support you. If you want any support with that. But this idea, there's three ways, and I've spoken to this if you follow me on social media at all. This idea that there's three ways to respond when someone's projecting pain onto us. Um, we can reflect. The first way is to reflect it back. So if someone's angry, guess what we're doing? We're angry right back. And okay. Yeah. Okay. I'll speak to that after this. So we reflect it back and sometimes we amplify it because we're like, oh yeah. I think you were speaking to that, JP, before, right? It's defensiveness. You have your story. You're like, I got to, no, but just listen to my story. This is my lens. I'm trying to make you see my lens. Will you please just see it? Right. And there's so much. Can you see how we're in an energy of fear, lack, and resistance? When we're trying to control, we're basically saying, I want you to control we're going to control where we're staying tonight. And that's not where they're living. They're like, but this is the way that I be. But you can't see it. So we're both trying to convince there's this going on. So we're reflecting it. That's the first way. The second way to respond to someone's projected pain is to absorb it and make it personal. We take that shit in. We're like, yeah, they're right. I kind of like this, or, we just wilt, we shrink. We make it, because what that is it's triggering something in us, an old belief that we came to believe before we knew better. And we're like, yeah, they're right. I'm not enough. I don't matter. I am not safe to show up. I don't even know how to show up. Yeah, they're right. I am that. And we absorb it. And now we're wallowing in that old belief system, right? And that's suffering. That's our hell. That's our living hell. If time is relative, do heaven and hell really exist in a future time? I think they're right here in our minds, and we're creating our heaven and our hell. I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at right now. It might change tomorrow. But the third way is to transmute it. So this is when it gets so beautiful, when we start to bring more awareness to, oh my gosh, I'm reflecting. Oh my gosh, I'm absorbing. What's the other way? What's the way that would actually feel really more like the frequency of love and my wholeness? It's to take the energy. If you know anything about alchemists back in the day, anciently, they were turning lead into gold, physically and metaphorically. So we become the alchemists. I'm an alchemista as a female. I love that, saying that with women. When I say well, we're alchemistas, right? And you're taking that, it's energy. Everything's energy. Everything has a frequency. So anger, that has a certain energy, and we feel it. And boy, oh boy, is that powerful. But instead of shrinking or reflecting, we take it in and we know our power of love is the most powerful. So we take it in, but we don't make it mean anything. It's not here to stay. We're like, ah, I see. I see through, we hear about the third eye. I'm not going to get into that, but this is clear seeing. It's seeing with the lens of love. What is true? This person is in pain. That's all. I'm not going to make it mean anything about them, but I don't need to know the why, but I can see it clearly for what it is. And I'm going to respond with compassion and love. That's it. And then you get to discern because you trust yourself enough when you get to this point where you're like, you've cleared out all the residue of all the beliefs and everything, and now you're not getting triggered. All the empty boats are just empty boats. You're like, yeah, it wouldn't, and you're not getting triggered anymore because you cleared that out. There's nothing to trigger that's old. It's clear. It's now you're neutral. You're like, I see that what it is. Okay. And there's also this, well, people will say, well, what if someone's abusive? Okay, so there's a story that um, I think it's Ram Dass tells that he learned from one of his gurus that it's love people and tell the truth. So we love people with compassion, but we're also willing to be honest about, oh, this is abusive. I'm not available for that. That's the truth. And there's no judgment, and there's no reflecting, there's no getting angry. It's just very clear. It's very clean. I'm not available for that. I don't even like talking about boundaries. I think when I used to talk about it more and more, like boundaries and they aren't meant to keep people out, they're more to maintain your safety, yes. And I see it more as like I call it the noble threshold. Our threshold that is permeable, impermeable, and it's fluid. And it changes with whoever is in front of us, whatever we're in front of, whether it's a person or a situation or what am I willing to watch? What am I willing to listen to? What am I willing to put in my mouth and feed this one instrument? It becomes everything, and it's noble because you are sacred. This is your temple. This is your one instrument. What are you allowing in and out of that noble threshold? But um, so love everyone and tell the truth. And then Thich Nhat Hanh tells a story of like, because sometimes people will say, I don't know how to hold myself. If I'm really lonely, really the version of me that's lonely is going to ask the person who thinks she's lonely to hold her. How does that work? And I'm like, I get it. I see you. I understand because that was me too. And it's choosing to be the one that stays over and over and over, not abandoning yourself anymore, that starts to create the muscle that believes in you. Now you're like, oh my gosh, I have the inner resource. I have enough love to hold myself when I'm lonely. I wouldn't know if I didn't stay. But if you're the one that stays, then you start to realize that you can give the love and you get to receive the love from you, not from anything outside of you. So Thich Nhat Hanh, I see JP, you want to say something. Let me just say this one little thing and then I'm going to
Oh no,
have,
I'm not. Did I unmute myself?
oh, it just was unmuted. So I was ready to have you ask
Oh
something.
no, no, I'm
Oh,
just agreeing. Yes.
Okay. So Thich Nhat Hanh said, like, he talks about holding anger like a baby. So when our anger comes up, or loneliness, or fear, or any emotion that shame that feels heavy, yours or someone else's even, imagine it like a baby that's literally crying, crying for what? Attention. Do we hit it? Do we hit the baby? Do we shake the baby? Are we like, stop crying? When we do that, can you imagine a baby would cry more? It's suffering. Do we abandon it and just walk out of the room? We're like, nope, don't have time for that. Don't have time for that baby. It gets louder and louder. But if we hold it, if we go grab that baby and we literally hold it, like the baby that it is, just want our sacred needs are to be seen, heard, and held. And our whole lives, we're waiting for someone else to do that for us. But the only one, the first one to matter is ourselves. So when we can finally, literally, I mean, literally, I tell clients, I'm like, literally think of your emotions as a crying baby. They're not there to punish you. They're there to say, oh, please look, please see me. Please pay attention. I'm an extension of you and I just need attention. That's all I'm here for. So you can bring me, love me back into, I'm a fractured part of you, dismissed and othered. And all I ever wanted to be is accepted and embraced. Yes, your shame, your jealousy, your loneliness, your anger, your fears, all of it, because they're heavy. But the whole thing, and this is where it gets so beautiful, is when you can stay present and turn towards it, the very shadow, if you're willing to have the compassion and courage to go into the shame and hold it, it becomes your gift. And that's what the alchemist knew. So if you think about your whole life, I don't know if you've ever studied the Gene Keys. It's so beautiful by Richard Rudd. It's a whole system of looking at your life and the gifts that you were given in your genes when you were born. It's kind of radical, like what? But I'm old enough now to look at my gene keys in this last 6 months. I've been studying it and geeking out on it. I'm like, son of a gun, that's my shadow. And I went in, and it is my gift now. That's what I came to learn. It wouldn't have been my shadow if I didn't need to go in. Like, do you understand what I'm saying? Like, that was my life. And if I'm going to other it and be like, no, that didn't really happen, then I'm never getting the gift. But I went in somehow. Everything got so cut back down to my root. I was like, well, if I'm cut back down to my root, I'm choosing my soil. And it's mine. It's not a soil that someone else chose for me. Not anymore. Because living like that created a robot. And I am not a robot. So I'm choosing my soil and I'm going into the fire. Because I never tried that. And what would it feel like to actually not be a robot, but to feel alive? I could feel my human beingness that is divine because one makes the other true. We're both and. I was living from an either or lens. Well, if this is good, then that is bad. No, it's both and.
I'm curious. Can I
Yeah,
ask you a question? You
yeah.
said you were living like a robot. I envision a robot as being emotionless or not being able to be shame driven. Um,
Mm.
I was, I, everything that you're saying resonates with me.
Hmm.
Um, and I feel like I was living much the same way. However, I think that a lot of the uh, nuances that drove me to do certain things were not because I was a robot, but because that was, it was either shame-based, fear-based, or, simply that is the way.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for speaking to this, JP, because it's both and, right? Everyone, I mean, you have how many kids in a family? There were seven of us. And every single one of us has a different version of a lived experience because we are such, our soul came here to learn different things and we have different personalities and we just each, I mean, we could, all of us could go see a movie together and every single one of us would have a different thing that we connected with in the film or not. Just depend on this, right? So you saying that. So my experience of becoming a robot looked a certain flavor, and yours might have been something very different. For me, to speak from my lived experience, my roboticism was based in, from what I understand now, and that could change as I keep going. From what I understand now, looking back, it was based in perfectionism and people pleasing and being one of the number 6 of 7 kids where I was like in a big family, like, oh, please see me, see me, see me. Oh, wait, how am I going to get seen? Oh, I'm looking and I'm seeing. No one ever said it. It was so felt. If I want to have value in this family, I need to show up like this. I need to be the good one. I need to be the one that doesn't make waves, whatever. And everybody is going to have a different version of that. Do you see? So
Yeah.
it's a different texture, flavor, cocktail, whatever you want to call it.
Hmm.
But we each have our version of roboticism or numbing out. So you said, so my particular, and it's either an adaptation or a maladaptation. So an adaptation is still maladaptive, but it's celebrated. Right? So I look at my perfectionism and people pleasing in the culture that I was raised in, that was celebrated. So when I would check in with myself, let me see how I'm doing. Oh, I'm doing great because I'm just like them. And that's how I lived. But what I was ignoring was my cognitive dissonance. I didn't know how to tune into that. And I didn't realize what it was until just probably a couple months ago. You can't name something like if you say to a fish, oh, you're swimming in water, they're like, what water? You don't know what you don't know. So my cognitive dissonance growing up in a system that felt cognitively dissonant, but I didn't know it because it's all I ever knew. Now I'm able to be like, that was anxiety. That was anxiety. And I've had it my whole life. And I did what? I adapted. Maladaption would look like addiction. Um, yeah, something like that, where we're numbing out just in a different way. So the adaptation is it's it's shape shifting and whatever, and it's crazy. It's beautiful because each one of us does it uniquely, innately. No one's teaching us, oh, if you just do this. We learn it. It's in us. It's collective. It's personal and collective. It's archetypal, right? That's why they're able to name it. Oh, these are all the ways we do it. And you're like, yeah, yeah, been there, done that. We've all done it. Pick your poison. Sex, gambling, anxiety, shopping, eating. That's how we're numbing out. And some are actually celebrated. Perfect. You're perfect. You can do that so well. Well, okay, I'm going to keep doing that, but I'm a robot. So when we finally are aware of what's happening in our being, in our body, then we're tuned in. Now we can trust ourselves. In the system that I was in, well, actually, I think maybe actually some people did say this. Your authority is out here, whether it's a man or a woman or a teacher or a god or a prophet or whatever that is, whatever that looks like, a system, a government system, they know better than you. And go pray about it or whatever to know the answers. But if you don't get this answer, then you've been deceived. By what? By Satan? Like what's deceiving me? If I'm feeling this and I keep trying to align with I want the thing that you want me to want. And at a certain point, I'm like, I I can't feel like this anymore. Is this really as good as it gets? And when I finally started asking that question, everything shifted because I was like, I know it's got to be better than this because I see people around me that are pretending, and I feel that. I didn't know that's what I was feeling until I finally called it out, and I'm like, wait, that's cognitive dissonance. And that feels like anxiety, and that is all I've ever known. And then as I started to open up myself and get out of the box of I have to be this way, I have to be perfect, I have to say yes all the time. And I just thought, well, you know what? Here's my new soil. I'm going to just figure this out. And I realized that thing stopped. That cognitive dissonance literally stopped. Silence, peace. Oh my gosh, that's a thing? That's for real? Then I started trusting it. And that became my guide, my GPS system. And it's my inner guidance system that it's connect when I am not in opposition to anything, especially me, I'm I am I am in alignment. Ding, there's the frequency of love. Let's call it love. I'm aligned with love, God, whatever you want to call it, the great mystery, the universe, Jesus, Christ consciousness. When we're tuned in and not in opposition, like, I don't know, resisting and fear and all the things, then we are, feel your body. So when our nervous system is in limbic, fight, flight, or freeze, we all know what that feels like. But can we tune into what it doesn't feel like and tune back into that? The remembering of what it feels like to take deep breaths and be in peace, like, oh my gosh, I can live like this. I get to live like this. That's freedom. That's liberation. That's not being in a prison anymore. So I've said enough. I don't know if there's anything else you want to say, Ryan, if you had anything to speak to, or JP, or Eric, anyone who's still here.
I
Um,
love it. Great
yeah,
stuff.
it's really good. I'm just going through a really bad breakup where I made a mistake and expecting unconditional love from her to be
Yeah,
able
yeah.
to acknowledge the mistake and then being able to move forward. Uh, she took it, the perspective change was
Hmm.
betrayal on her part, and then she turned around and betrayed me, basically.
Okay.
A week later, she's engaged to her ex-boyfriend, who, long story short, she said that throughout our relationship, she said that she would never forgive him for his mistakes in the relationship. So
Mm,
that's taking that perspective is, and being neutral about it. I'm trying to see that it's just a hurt person trying to, you know, cause the pain of cycle, and trying to uh, be separate from that has been very challenging because now it's, did I caused all this. I want to shame myself for, if I hadn't made my mistake in the beginning, this would have never happened,
mm-hmm.
and for her to get engaged and be committed to that man that, had already made plenty of mistakes, is to me very betraying wise, and I'm having to second guess our entire relationship because of that. So I'm sick now because I haven't been sleeping because my nervous system has been so messed up that I, just trying to breathe and not let the thoughts prevail over everything. And I really enjoyed your perception for holding those feelings like a child, that needs crying out, and this is the first time I'm willing to not run from anything. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do any drugs. I'm just trying to feel every bit of this just because I want to be able to take the lessons from it and be able to grow. Like I don't want to I don't want to repeat this cycle. And I also don't want to betray myself because that's what originally happened in the beginning is
Wow.
my own lack of self-love is what really was the motivation for all this turmoil, and everyone I talk to about it is just like, you're in such a great position, like everything will be fine for you. And I'm like, yeah, but that's in the future. That's not today. Today I feel miserable and
Yeah,
unloving and not good enough, and trying
of
to get
course.
trying to get out of that prison as best as I can, and
How could you not? Of course, there's so much grace. And I didn't, I kind of cut you off because I'm like so excited about what you're saying. But did you have anything further to say about that?
uh,
Um,
It's just the harmonizing part. Like I know what it's like to be that way before, and I think the biggest uh expectation was that I had that in that relationship. I felt like we really harmonized really well. So for this to be such a major fracture,
Mm.
you had said that it takes two to come back together, and I'm just so um the sense of loss that we didn't have that harmony, which I thought was already there.
Mm.
Realizing that somebody doesn't break up with somebody and then get engaged in a week if that life raft wasn't already in the know of what was going on.
Yeah, okay, so much here. I just want to, first of all, I want to honor you. Oh, so much of just willingness to be vulnerable, to share, to show up here. I want to say thank you. Thank you, because this right here is exactly what, if men are hearing this and feeling this and like, oh my gosh, yeah, that's been my experience too. I just didn't know how to like express it or whatever. You are creating the energy, collective energy to give other men permission to express what they feel and be like, oh my gosh, yeah, that's like he said it. Thank you for saying
Yeah,
it. So that's really so beautiful. I just want to say, like, acknowledge that first and foremost.
thank you.
That is really so beautiful. Just that you have the willingness, and all of you here. Like, I know JP, you've been talking. Isaac is my son. He's, he's here and um he's just sweet. He's visiting me here in Salt Lake. He's sitting out on my balcony right now. But so thank you for being here, and my friend Eric too. Like, just even you not being on screen, just knowing that you're here is really, really, and anyone who's going to watch this, like, I have so much joy right now. Like, I am like, this right here is exactly why I want to do this. So if anyone can sit in this energy and be like, you know what? Maybe I could cry. Maybe I could hold my crying babies, all of them, with a little more compassion. Just like, of course you feel that way. Of course you felt that way. You're human. And
Yeah,
who were we waiting for to come and hold us? And sometimes we have great partners and it's lovely to be in relationships. So Ryan, it seems like you already have this awareness, but I just want to point it out in case you don't. And it may be too soon. You may not want to hear this or take it in at all, but I'm sure you've had other relationships, I'm assuming. Like, even just to think back, like, to get out of the weeds of what you're feeling, just acknowledge, yes, I'm feeling this, because as I feel it, I heal it. Like, it comes back. It's in my inability to feel that I stay rigid and contracted. Like, think of like, if we're going to talk about male and female energy, um, feminine energy, it it's soft and it wants to be open and creative and flowing, right? How does a woman give birth to anything unless she's dilating open? And men have that same energy. But they grew up in a society that taught them to armor up. Big boys don't cry. Get more rigid, all these walls, all the armor, when really, look at what's happening to you as you're letting some of these walls down. You're softening. That's a very feminine thing. I'm saying that's fucking beautiful. So thank you for acknowledging that that exists in you too. It's both and. What a gift to finally step into that and be a receiver of your feminine energy. Like, yes, I'm going to feel this. Yes, I'm going to hold this. Yes, I'm going to nourish myself. And that's not a not masculine thing. That's the most cool masculine, feminine thing that you can do, because your masculine energy is going to hold the structure for you to do that. Does that make sense? You're still a man, still a guy, and yet I get to do this too. Yes, both and. And when we see women stepping into understanding their emotions and being in relationship with their moon cycles, like all of this flowing, and they're able to give structure and be in relationship with someone that has a consciousness about that too. It can be very helpful for kind of modeling what healthy masculine energy feels like, because we haven't had a lot of that modeled. It's structure to hold all of the emotion and let it feel safe to do so without shaming it and being like, you're batshit crazy. Sorry. Oh my word. But really, that is That is beautiful. When we start to come together in these energies that make each other true, and when we're balanced here, so why I'm saying this is to come back around, Ryan, to this idea that is there ever any wrong person that we're in a relationship with?
Uh, the lessons that I have learned from this have been eye-opening.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That right there, that perspective, that understanding starts to deepen and deepen because you're open to feeling and being like, geez, this right here, it cracked me open. But now the light gets in and then it grows a little more because everything's always expanding. So maybe at a certain point, I don't know when it is, time is relative. It'll be the time that it's supposed to be for you to have like this like it to really drop in and embody in you. Thank you. You just showed me what I'm actually available for and what I'm not. And now with that knowing, the energy, the signal I'm sending out of love is more magnetic because it's feminine than anything. So what you're drawing in now is maybe a more conscious energy that you're like, oh, we had this. I thought we had this and it felt so connected. Great. You take that, you keep that, and that keeps going, but you take all the other stuff and you bring that in. You're like, this is more whole. Now I'm stepping into my wholeness. And now the signal I'm sending out is calling in, if you will, something very different, something magical.
Yeah.
You don't know what it is, but you don't need to know because you know you just stay right here and you keep doing you. It's now you're calling in something that's more aligned with you. Look at what all that you just said. Holy heck. That's so beautiful.
Thank you.
The
It,
thing that, yeah, the relationship that's going to align with that, if that's what you choose, is going to be aligned with you. You're freaking awesome. And the more you believe that, the more
yeah,
you keep being that. And you stay in this awareness that of like, oh, and now life becomes like this joyful thing because nothing's ever here to hurt you. Life is your ally. What would it be like to create an alliance with the only person who could never leave you? You. And we've done it our whole lives. We've abandoned ourselves, that primal wound that we don't even know we're making an agreement with our parents. I know we're going over, I'm going to wrap it up here, but the primal wound isn't so much between us and our parents as it is this unspoken agreement before we even can speak. If you will keep me safe and feed me, keep a roof over my head, I will become whatever version I think you want me to be so I can stay safe. But what we don't understand is that is the first form of self-abandonment.
mm,
Mm.
So now we have lived our lives. It's such a natural thing to us self-abandon because it worked when we were young. It's a form of avoidance. And we don't know we're doing it until suddenly we're aware, oh, I abandoned myself in that relationship. My need to be needed trumped pretty much everything. So I just made myself available for breadcrumbs, right? And so when we can say, "Oh my gosh, I get to be the one who stays and loves myself." And from that place, anything's possible. Because now I know I'm already whole. The version of me that's whole doesn't live in a future time. It's right now. How do I tap into that energy? That man that's whole. How does he wake up in the morning? How does he talk to himself and about himself? What does he wear? What's his diet? Not just what he's eating. What is he listening to? What is he reading? What is he allowing? What is he available for? What is his noble threshold? All of it. It all matters. And when you start living in the frequency of your wholeness, which is love, you stop reacting and responding and being triggered because you are the one who stays. You are the wholeness that stays and allows all the fractured parts to come home. Does that make sense?
yeah.
So, and you're doing it. And the thing is, you can't get it wrong. You guys, we can't get it wrong. That's the message. I mean, sometimes I say it, I'm like, okay, I got to go tell you all this other stuff. So you understand you just really can't get it wrong. We're here to make all the mistakes. It's messy. It's all holy. It's a sacred mess. And it was meant to be this way. Or it would be something different. It is what it is. And when we finally accept it and stop resisting it, we're living in our joy. And that starts to spread. That's contagious. How does it feel in your body to smile and have these little things like, oh my gosh?
Yeah.
How does your nervous system feel when you breathe that in? Like really breathe it in. I can't get this wrong. I'm okay. I'm safe to trust myself. Huh. That changes everything.
It really does.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, and then there's so many people saying the same thing I'm saying, and it makes my heart like so much joy because we've lived in the consciousness of fear for so long, and we see it on our news. I don't watch news. I'm like, I'm not going to keep living in the frequency of fear. I won't do it. And my friends are like, you're living under a rock. And I'm like, but it's about belief. I believe in hope and I believe in human souls who are human and divine, waking up from roboticism and the belief that they should be ashamed to be human and coming back into their wholeness. And if I'm just one voice among many, love already won, you guys. Already won. What do you choose to live in? The frequency, it's your choice. And our choice is our power in every now moment. We get pulled back into this really seductive past. We're not afraid of the unknown. We're afraid of our painful past informing our fearful future. We're afraid of the past we haven't accepted yet. That's what we're afraid of. Because we haven't held that version of us yet. That's all. We're getting there because time is relative. It's no one's ahead, no one's behind. It's just our own timing. It's just what it is. So, okay. Thank you for coming here. Are there any more questions? And I meant to support. So this is the thing. I'm kind of getting this up and running. Share this. Tell anyone that you think is willing to, I don't even want to call it doing the work. They're willing to be radical. To be radical and like, no, I'm not going to live in my fear anymore. That's a radical belief. That's a radical thing. So if you know anyone, share this. Let them come once a month. And if we want to meet more, we will. Because this is something I'm like, the things that happen to me, my lived experience, were not random. They happened for a reason. And I'm here now because that happened. And I have a message that seems to resonate with people because it healed me. So I'm like, hey, anything that healed me, I went and got trained in. I went and got a degree in. That's how I'm wired. So why not share that? Why else did all that happen? If this is my mission, I'm like, if I'm doing it out of the lens of love, it feels like my purpose. And I know I will thrive living in that energy. So it's as simple as that. It's my passion. I love to do it. I love to see little clicks and little things, and people are like, even if it's just a little bit more expanded into their wholeness and their love. And then we go back to our humanity and we contract because we're human, but so much grace for that. Then you get to hold that version of you again and again and again and again. You're the one who stays over and over. And you keep expanding, and then suddenly, I'm not so triggered anymore. Wow. That's freaking cool. You're walking around, there's no one to blame anymore. There's no more triggers. Life is really beautiful out here because it's peaceful in here. Now you get to be that light for everyone in your life. Not because you're saying it. And maybe I stop saying it. Maybe I just keep living it and it starts to affect all the energy around me because it's so strong. It's just presence. It's being here now. choosing love over and over in every now moment. That's all. Okay.
Love
Thank
it.
you for being here. If you feel like you need support more outside of this, reach out and let me know. I'd love to support you in a small way. Obviously, I have a practice too, and I moved back to America a few months ago from living abroad for some years, and it's more expensive in America. I will tell you that. So, as much as I love to give freely, this is all free because it's just too good to, I think it's the information that people are disseminating about this very thing, these concepts, every human deserves to know for free. It's our birthright to live this way. What I believe that as I hold presence and let people sit with my energy of my belief that, yeah, look at this. This is a way to be. I can be this way. You can be this way. That's what I guess I don't want to say charge for, but that's the monetary energetic exchange, right? It's the frequency that people are like, oh my gosh, I could feel like that. Yes, yes, you can. And it changes everything. And it doesn't just change you, it changes everything in your world, everyone in it, because you are a different you. And that just, it's frequency. And people feel it. They may be like, what's different about you? I don't know, love. Right? Compassion, empathy, alchemy, like all the things. And it's so beautiful and feminine and masculine and all its beauty.
Well, where can we find you?
I'm I'm at the Buffalo Queen on Instagram.
I'm taking a hiatus from social media for a bit.
Okay, so my website is buffaloqueen.com.
Perfect.
buffaloqueen.com. And yeah, the story, just to really quickly, actually, if you go to my website, I tell the story that I heard it at like a betrayal trauma retreat right after my separation, before I like chose to continue with a divorce. And they told the story of the buffalo, and I'd never heard of it. It's a phenomenon. Like if there's cattle and buffalo roaming, and a storm comes in, the cattle will actually turn and run from the storm, and they end up being in it longer because they are running from it and with it. And then the buffalo actually, they will gather in their herd. And it's either, in my mind, I'm like, that's either physical or internal, like my own strength. I'm gonna like do this. Not by grit, but like trust. Like I can do this. I got this. And they'll turn towards the storm and they'll walk or run into it, and they end up on the other side of it quicker because they faced it. And that was like a lightning bolt moment for me, because I was like, holy cow. Holy cow, I've been a cow. I've been a cow. I've been running and hiding, adapting all the ways that I saw and felt would keep me safe. And it kept me running and numbed. And I was like, I don't want to be numb anymore. So let me see, what are my storms? And sometimes we think our storms are all outside of us. The storms are in here. So we're really turning in and tuning in and like, I get it. I get it.
I get it.
So yeah, so that changed me, and I was like, okay, do you guys have a t-shirt or something to remember? They're like, no. So I was like, well, I have to start a company that sells these. So I used to sell them, then I went and got my degrees, and now I'm like speaking it out. But really, that story for me was life-changing. Just that subtle awareness of, oh my God, I have been living like a cow. I don't know which is a prettier animal. I don't know, but it doesn't matter. It's just the energy behind these two being these, gotta love cows. They're still learning. Anyway, we're all where we're at. And I think the freedom even comes in not being in a system that was black and white and then coming over here and being black and white. This is right and that is wrong. It's like, no, there are as many paths as there are people, and everyone has their own timing, their own way to be, to figure out that everyone has their own curriculum. Who am I to say your curriculum should be here or this or that? No. And that's freedom, because now I'm not trying to control anyone. I'm just here speaking my lived experience. And if it resonates with someone, lovely. And if not, that's not where they're at. Okay. That's great too. It's all good. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you for showing up like this. Like this right here is exactly what I envisioned this to be. Men showing up for themselves, being the one who stays, speaking your truth, and realizing the gift that that is not just for yourself. You gave it here first. You came, you showed up. And now look at everyone left here with like a, huh,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, Isaac?
Mute myself because there's gonna be like an echo because I can hear you talking through the door.
Yeah.
I don't want that like going the whole time. But yeah,
Okay. Thumbs up. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Like my heart is so full right now. Joy, joy. Like if I had to check out, there is joy right now. So thank you.
Thank you.
You.
Take care.
Okay. I'm going to turn this off and then I will. Okay.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you so much. And anyone watching, I love and believe in you. Namaste.
Namaste.
Ciao.